Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Conference. It's so good, it's so good to see so many of you from across our trade union and labour movement here today in Llandudno. And a year into my role as Secretary of State for Wales, it's been an enormous privilege to work with Labour colleagues across both the UK and Welsh governments and in our local councils throughout Wales. But I want to give a special thank you to Nia Griffith, Becky Gittins, Ruth Anderson and Anna McMorrin for their hard work at the Wales office over the past year. And to all our Welsh Labour MPs who have tirelessly advocated for their constituents every single day of the past year since our landslide general election victory. They do a brilliant job. Thank you. And as we approach the anniversary of that victory, we remind ourselves that it was a victory delivered through the strength of our common endeavour. Those words on the back of our membership cards. And look at what we've achieved together. 2 Labour governments investing in Wales's future, in our economy, in our public services, and in our people. And when we came into office, our economic inheritance was dreadful, as you know. We set to work, fixing the foundations and urgently tackling those many crises that the Tories had left behind. Nowhere more so than in Port Talbot. So within 10 weeks, a better deal negotiated with Tata, with improved support for every single worker impacted. £1.3 billion invested in Port Talbot for a new electric arc furnace, and the construction of which, as you've just heard, will begin in the next few weeks by locally contracted firms. And we have created the conditions for future investment so the town and our steel communities have a bright and long-term future. Now contrast that with the Tories. They left the Transition Board completely unfunded. I've never been so horrified as the day I found out that that £80 million promised to people who were losing their jobs didn't exist. Not a single penny went out of the door of the Transition Board to support steel communities in 10 months under the Tories. But in the same number of months, this Labour government fully funded the £80 million promised to support steel workers, their families and businesses through the transition to green steel making. Not just in Port Talbot, but support in Llanwern and Trostre too. And today I want to pay tribute to our steel communities and to Community Union and to GMB and to Unite for all their work supporting their members and their families. Now, from that Transition Board fund, we've supported steel workers to reskill, retrain and set up their own businesses. And earlier this week, I spent some time with a former Tata employee, Martin, who has Transition Board funding, Transition Board funding, has set up his own mental health and counselling business to support his former colleagues. Martin is already employing people and he plans to employ more. And he's just one example of many success stories. But I think his story tells us everything we need to know about our steel communities. They look after each other. And Conference, we will never stop supporting our Welsh steel communities. And that's why today I'm announcing an £11.8 million economic growth and investment fund, jointly funded by the UK Labour government and by Tata. And this fund is going to support businesses to invest and create new jobs in the region, supporting long-term growth. And this follows our announcement in the spending review of a further £80 million investment for port infrastructure in Port Talbot. And then just last week, the Crown Estate announced the 2 developers who will deliver a new generation of floating offshore wind farms, the largest in the world in the Celtic Sea. This is going to deliver billions of pounds in investment, over 5,000 new jobs. It's going to power 4 million homes with clean electricity and bring down energy bills. Conference, this is a huge vote of confidence in Wales and the UK's offshore wind sector at a time of global volatility, putting us right at the forefront of a new industry and opening up even more opportunities for export in the future for our people here in Wales and supply chain businesses. You might be able to tell I am so excited about the opportunities that this is creating for people in Wales. And a few months ago, I met a young woman apprentice, Libby, at Dragon LNG in Milford Haven. Some of you will know Dragon. Now, Libby is a qualified hairdresser, which is a very useful qualification, obviously. But she saw an advert for apprenticeships in the renewable energy sector, and she's now training to be a clean energy engineer. She's got a good, secure, well-paid career ahead of her. And it means she doesn't need to leave Pembrokeshire to learn or to earn, something that she told me was crucially important to her. So that's a Labour government investing in our new industries, in new jobs, with a plan to make Wales the best place to invest in the world. And our UK modern industrial strategy that Keir mentioned, published earlier this week, if you look at it, it tells a powerful Welsh story. And both our Labour governments have worked closely on the industrial strategy and with businesses up and down Wales, because this is as much their plan as it is ours. The strategy is robust, strategic and unashamedly long-term, and it leverages our free ports, our investment zones and our highly skilled workforce and will create tens of thousands of jobs. Conference, this is Wales leading the way. Together we are investing to improve our economy and creating the jobs of the future. And because we are Labour governments, these jobs will be secure, unionised jobs in every part of the country. And because we are Labour governments, 160,000 workers in Wales are getting a record pay rise this year. And because we are Labour governments, wages are going up, employment is up, economic inactivity is down, and interest rates have fallen 4 times. People across our nation expect nothing less. We are the Labour Party and work is in our name. Now, when Keir appointed me as Secretary of State, I made no secret of the fact that I wanted to end the Tories' historic underfunding of Welsh Rail. I made it my #1 priority. I was very public about that. Because for years, the Tories peddled lies and false promises on rail, chronically underfunding Wales and riding roughshod over the Welsh Government in the process. Well, I can tell you, Conference, we have put an end to that, because I worked closely with Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander and Welsh Cabinet Secretary Ken Skates at the spending review, and the Chancellor announced nearly £500 million to invest in new stations, faster trains and more capacity on our rail network. So money for the Welsh Government to continue their excellent work on upgrading the Core Valley lines, and money to ensure a pipeline of future rail projects. Because our rail transformation journey has just begun and it's not stopping anytime soon. Conference, this is what happens when 2 Labour governments work together. We invest in our economy, we invest in our public services, and we invest in our people. Now, nowhere has the damage of Tory austerity been more apparent than in our public services. But because we now have 2 Labour governments, Wales will have an extra £5 billion over the next 3 years to invest in those public services which we all rely on every single day. And we protected every single penny and Wales's share of the UK structural funds, and Wales got the best deal of any UK nation. And unlike the Tories, we have fully funded Welsh Government's crucial work at their request to keep coal tips safe. £143 million delivered, because we know that keeping Wales safe is our first responsibility. We're investing billions into our national security, committing to spending 5% of GDP on defence and recruiting 13,000 more neighbourhood police and PCSOs, keeping the country safe, making our streets safe and keeping people safe. And our two Labour governments are working together to keep those NHS waiting lists falling, to build more social housing, to regenerate our high streets and to keep Wales safe. Because conference, that is what happens when two Labour governments are working together. We've invested in our economy, in our public services, in our people, and conference, we have ended Tory austerity. And together, we're going to make sure that that austerity is never imposed on Wales again. Now, meanwhile, Plaid will continue to complain from the sidelines, because that's what they do. But ask them this. Could all of that investment that Labour has made in Wales happen if they got the chance to put their divisive plans into action to rip the UK apart? Why did they vote against hundreds of millions of pounds more for our NHS, for our schools, transport and business support? And conference, they voted against the Welsh Labour government investing millions of pounds into keeping coal tips safe. Remember to tell people about that. So who's going to deliver the best deal for Wales? Is it Rhun ap Iorwerth and Nigel Farage? Or is it Eluned Morgan and our two Labour governments working together? Because conference, you know that when we work together, we deliver for Wales. And in less than a year, we will, as we heard at the start of conference this morning, face the most important election in the history of devolution. Our opponents are two sides of the same coin. Plaid and Reform are divisive nationalists determined to rip our country apart. One's got no plan to pay for the NHS, and another one has got plans to sell it off to the highest bidder. They will destroy the work we've done to create those thousands of jobs in renewable energy, in advanced manufacturing and in defence. They'll stop our free prescriptions. They'll halt the progress made on waiting lists. Look at what we've achieved so far. We cannot let that be put at risk in May. So we must fight for every vote, and we must win this election. And we must win it by the strength of our common endeavour, just like we did last year. So conference, thank you, and I'll see you all on the campaign trail. That was great. Thank you.